Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to a new episode of Games and Names. Our sport for this episode is kayak, and our featured star guest is Sama Farouk, a kayak national team player. Sprint kayak is a sport held on calm water. The paddler is seated, facing forward, and uses a double-bladed paddle, pulling the blade through the water on alternate sides to propel the boat forward. Kayak sprint has been in every Summer Olympics since it debuted at the 1936 Summer Games in Berlin. Racing is governed by the International Canoe Federation. Boats may have one rudder, which must be under the hull of the boat. The rudder is controlled by the feet of the paddler, the foremost paddler in multi-person designs. The boat to be designed as to be a sit-in as opposed to a sit-in on surf ski. Crews or individuals race over 200 meters, 500 meters, 1,000 meters, or 5,000 meters, with the winning boat being the first to cross the finish line. In competition, the number of paddlers within a boat is indicated by a figure besides the type of boat. K1 signifies an individual kayak race, K2 pairs, and K4 four-person crews. A K3 kayak has been developed in South Africa for use in the Fish River Canoe Marathon. Modern sprint kayaks are generally made of lightweight composite materials such as carbon fiber and fiberglass. Wood was previously used on older kayaks along with steel for some sections of the boat. They are narrow, extremely unstable, and expensive. Due to this, they are not intended to be used in anything other than flat water courses. They can capsize and or be dragged underwater in moderate waves. My name is Sama Farouk. I'm a national team player in the sport of kayak. I'm 21 years old. Kayak and sports are basically my life, my career. They are simply Sama. That's what they represent. I started in 2012. That's the first time I practiced sport. And it was the sport of kayak. And 4 months later, I became a member of the national team. Only 4 months later, as I participated in the Arab Games. I've been a national team player since then. I have taken part in 7 African Games, 8 Arab Championships, and 3 World Cups. And my score at the Pan-African Games in Morocco was what enabled me to qualify for the Tokyo Olympic Games.
الفضل يرجع طبعا لبابايا ومامتي.
I consider my dad and mom to be my number one supporters. They are the reason I am here. They have always been at my back, pushing me and helping me. And maybe until I was 18, they used to accompany me in every training and every championship. They used to take me to the club to attend my exercises, and sometimes it was at 5:30 a.m. They used to fear that I would be alone in the darkness at this very early dawn hours. So they used to take me to those very early training sessions before they went to work. Sometimes they even stayed with me for hours so they can drop me off at school before they go to work. So I can say that until my university years, my dad and mom were there with me in every single minute. Also, they were there rooting for me, even when it was very hot at the scorching heat. They stood above bridges to watch me row and support me. Now, as far as obstacles are concerned, I can say that it is difficult to uh, manage your sports and academic careers at the same time with great success. For instance, I had to skip participation in a World Cup that was going to make my showing at Tokyo easier because my exams were there at the same time. So I sacrificed participation at that specific World Cup to attend my exams, and that made the road to qualification to the Olympics much harder. But still, I was able to do it through an alternative road.
مامتي
I consider my mom to be my number one supporter. She has always been so. Now, I remember that she was the one that introduced me to sports. And by the way, the first sport I ever practiced was gymnastics. I wanted to play gymnastics, but there was an age barrier for me. That was the obstacle because I had started very late and no club accepted me at what they considered an already old age, of course, relatively. But I went, still insisted that I had to practice sport, and my mom also took me to try myself in many sports, including basketball and volleyball. I excelled at basketball to the degree I made it to the national team in my age category in the youth years in one camp or trial. I also used to play swimming at the same time, and I was one of the national champions in that sport before I moved to kayak. Now, kayak never really prevented me from succeeding at school because, as you know, most of the training sessions and exercises are very early in the morning. So I used to finish my training and then go to school. The same does not go for university, of course, which has different hours. Of course, at this stage where I have to travel a lot to attend training camps and to attend international championships like African or Arab Games or even World Cups, it is difficult to adjust your time frames between the sport and your academic life, yet it's still doable. And with coordination with my professors at university, I've been relatively successful in combining between my sports and academic successes.
هو كان حلمي في الأول طبعًا، أول ما بدأت كاياك
The national team was a dream for me, and I achieved that very quickly, only months after I took the sport. Now, one of my very first coaches was a major factor in my success. Captain Saber was the one who believed in me. He saw something in me that convinced him I can overcome all of my fears and overcome all of my opponents at the same time. Believe it or not, I used to fear from the heavy Nile waters and from falls in the cold waters. But again, Captain Saber was the one who kept pushing me forward, and I overcame all of my opponents and my fears at the same time. Then my dream was to obviously become an regional champion, and thank God I made that through the Arab and African scenes. Then the dream naturally was to go to the Olympics, something that I achieved at the Tokyo Olympic Games. Now, kayak is considered to be a relatively new sport in Egypt. In fact, our federation is relatively new. We used to have a joint federation with rowing, and that was until the year 2009 when Egypt set up the National Canoe and Kayak Federation. Just like all individual games in Egypt, we believe we should have more support and more funds. The sport is unfortunately not very popular because all of the popularity and all of the funds go to one sport here in Egypt. Of course, you know that sport, football. Now, the new sport in Egypt has achieved, though, and if you consider that the very first Arab championship in the sport of kayak was in 2012, then what we have reached is already something very good. Our first participation at the Olympic Games was in Rio 2016, and the Tokyo Olympic Games in 2020 featured two participants, myself and male star athlete Ali Hassan.
تأهلت أنا ومعايا لاعب تاني اسمه علي حسن.
「